Hey guys, it's Fillmore, and this is QF, a podcast about Howard Stern. And of course, I'm with Sam, and we're doing a mailbag because it's been, I believe, 5 months or so since the last time we did one.
Yeah, I don't like to check the mail.
Well, we should start off by saying, announcing about our Patreon, of course, that we're announcing we're doing Patreon only content for the purposes of those subscribers who have been so kind as to donate, and if just for future reference, anybody donating the second tier, $5. I can't remember the name. I don't know if it's hot dogs and donuts. I can't remember the name of it. Black Kluge maybe, and if you do that, you're going to get access to pretty much everything we put on Patreon. And the stuff that we do put on there is not simply going to be fluff or, always, short things. It's going to be a mix of stuff that's too short to be an actual episode because they're standalone clips and they're not that long, perhaps, but we still wanted to do coverage of them. But it'll also be premium stuff that might easily be switched to. It could be a Sunday show, but isn't. So, it's going to be a good mix. We've got more people contributing, and that's going to be fun. I just finished recording one with Deborah Marshall, who's going to be one of our new contributors,
I'm
and
super
it's
excited to
fantastic.
hear that. I'm
It's
super
fantastic.
excited about this.
Yeah,
I
there's a little bit of an issue because we're recording with Zoom, and she was a little overmodulated, but I tried my best to fix all that, and that's my own fault because Skype wouldn't work, and Zoom was a little wonky. So in the future, we'll correct that.
Go figure. It didn't work for education either this year.
Yeah, no kidding. So anyway, so please subscribe to us on via Patreon, guys. It doesn't apply to people with PayPal, because then I'd have to find a way to fucking send content to people, and that's a big pain in the ass. So please, if you want to donate and you're donating through PayPal, just learn Patreon and switch to it. It's really not that big of a deal because you can actually give a year subscription in advance and get a discount on it. I believe it's 15% for our particular site. So at any rate, we're going to start. I'm going to go a little backwards here. The Fabulous Gambit Part 1. Patrick J, who's one of our favorite
Such a great
commenters.
title, by the way.
All Raven, she suggested because she watched the Queen's Gambit and I didn't know anything about it. I don't know.
Oh,
Fucking
it's a
chats.
great show. I suggest.
Yeah. So he said, I haven't listened to the episode completely, but lately I've been watching old Mark Harris episodes. Funny listening to Howard rip on a bisexual 43-year-old wannabe famous guy who married a 75-year-old used to be famous has-been woman. Fast forward 25 years from the Mark Harris episodes, and we have a 49-year-old wannabe famous woman with a bisexual 68-year-old used to be famous has-been. LMAO, Beth is Mark, Howard is Martha Ray. If you told Howard back in 1994 his future would be what he's making fun of, he'd never believe you. And then another comment. I picked about two or three from every one of them. Dave Mies or Mies, he's also a regular poster. Fillmore had the best line. If you were a pre-op trans, you have your learner's permit. I don't know why I came up with that. Then Amanda Brown, who's
So, you know what's so
a really
funny
good
is
poster.
somebody
Yeah, go ahead.
somebody messaged me, what are you guys gonna do if Howard comes back from the break and he's no longer Howard, he's Holly?
Then we got to change the name to a podcast about Holly Stern. I got to go back and retype everything. Amanda Brown, who's now a really regular poster, and she's really, really good and
Yeah,
really,
she
she
is.
says a lot of good stuff. Hunter Schafer is transgender and gorgeous. I love Euphoria because I don't know what Euphoria is. I think it's a show. Zendaya plays a great character. I'm a woman and attracted to certain women, but I need male equipment. So Hunter is like the best of both worlds to me. Haha. Howard claims he's a straight man, and sorry, but straight men do not drool over a transgender to the point where he's saying his wife is scared he'll leave her for one. I ditched Sirius before he got into all the jazz talk, and I don't know anything about jazz, but I've heard he spent an hour talking about that particular transgender, gay agenda to the max. Now, Jazz, I can't remember the last name, but anyway, people have posted pictures of Jazz that this person has put on a shitload of weight, and that would explain perfectly why he's no longer talking about her because he hates
I,
fat people more than anything.
I had to look this up because I
Yeah.
also noticed that he wasn't talking about jazz as much. And so not only the psychiatric issues Jazz must endure from I guess whatever
Yeah.
Jazz is dealing with,
Transformation, yeah.
but Jazz is a obese person now that can't stop shoveling food in her face.
Mm-hmm.
Like she is admittedly can't stop eating.
Yeah.
She's like, you remember when Artie said he went to that charity where what did he say that
Prada Willie?
Yeah, I think Jazz has that.
Maybe. His Jazz is now a jazz ensemble. Sorry, guys, I couldn't resist. The next clips, I got comments from So Long Farewell, episode 1, and there hasn't been an episode 2, guys. I apologize for that. We keep meaning to go back to that, and we will, but we'll be recording the next one for that fairly soon, I believe. Doug Hollis, who says, love you all to death. Thank you so much, Fix and Sam and Raven and Bob and everyone who contributes. You're the only one out of many podcasts that I looked forward to and count down to. Such weird and obscure to most people slice of pop culture to love and hate at the same time. No one I know can relate because they weren't fans, but I come here and fuck me if it isn't satisfying. Have you got one that you found?
Yes, I have one that I found.
Which episode?
It's going to be the Billy West episode, the last one in the series of Billy West by Thomas J.
Okay.
So we're jumping around a little. Thomas J. said, by 2000, fans were leaving in droves. Most of them were discovering Opie and Anthony in New York. Those guys weren't worried about being accepted by Manhattan socialites and still did a show that was fun and funny. Infinity protected him from Opie and Anthony. They prevented them from competing directly, and they gagged them.
That's right.
It's really interesting because I think that a lot of people weren't sure if that was what was happening. We were sure if you were an Opie and Anthony fan, but Howard fans, if you were only getting that propaganda, you weren't sure. So people were still on the fence about it. And now... Yeah. It's most definitely he was protected.
Right. And well, it's like it wasn't even the situation. I think, well, if they were on the same, if they were at the same station, that's a technique that radio guys used to do ages ago. Or like radio execs would, if a person couldn't beat another show, they would hire that show and take him out of the slot. And they just, if you can't beat them, just make them join you. And they had to do that with Howard in a couple markets, just because he just couldn't get past them. Here's a comment from the same one, So Long Farewell, Drop the Chalupa, who's a really frequent poster now. I've commented on a bunch of these videos, but I just got to say, great work with these podcasts. Seriously. I tried giving a certain other podcast that covers this topic a try, and it was just terrible. And I'm glad you moved on from that thing before doing this. I just don't like people laughing over each other and ironically being every bit as bad as the show they are trying to make fun of, if you know what I mean. They were rightfully ridiculed by the Who Are These Podcast guys a long while ago. And they even said a podcast about Howard Stern had so much potential, but their execution was just pure shit. This feels much more like Jocktober for Stern all year round, and it's great. Sam killing it with the riffing as well. I really like Raven and Bob too. Best of all, it's great that you all listen to criticism and continually get better as you do more of these. I think I'm almost done catching up on all these past episodes for sure. So thank you, Drop the Chalupa. Yeah, and thank you. You've got lots more, but I just picked that one.
Oh, I wonder why.
Yeah. And I keep getting people posting stuff about the Who Are These Podcasts, and I can't take them seriously because they suck up to Shuli and they have him host, and I can't stand those two guys, but I give them full credit for basically making a career out of, a niche thing, reviewing other podcasts for the most part. And I know a lot of people listen to them, and kudos to them. I can't really criticize them for being successful.
Well, there's something to be said for taking the time to actually go over so many different podcasts, but it does take you a little while to get into the flavor of a podcast. Like, there's some things I listen to that I don't even know how I got started on listening to it, like the Dark Horse podcast.
Sure.
It's two evolutionary biologists, or a biologist and evolutionary biologist. I don't even know. There would be no way in my head I would be listening to this, but I, for some reason, love it. Sometimes it takes you a little while to get into something. So it's a little unfair, I'd say. Sometimes, you know what I mean? They kind of pass quick judgment. In this case, they happen to be right.
Yeah.
But
well, we've had we've had a few like posters on the YouTube channel explain how they used to give us shit, and then like NYC Hardcore was one who said he, initially gave us shit, then kind of turned the page and realized, no, you guys are saying something that's important, and not that we're fucking, we're not philosophers here. We're not doing some kind of serious show about epistemology or something. But the bottom line is, if we're an acquired taste, or if we're really easy to swallow, I mean, fuck it, it's great. Whatever floats your boat. But you definitely, I agree, you have to take some time to listen to a podcast sometimes to get the full idea of what it's about. Let's see. Okay, Bro Fight Part 1. Hambone Jones, who's a regularly, reasonably regular poster, I would say. What killed Howard and Robin as well was knowing Artie was much happier not being part of these bits, and that his hollow threats of not setting Artie up with bimbos on the air anymore had absolutely no effect on him. It made Howard feel powerless, and until that point he'd only ever known an environment where he could manipulate emotions or take away privileges from someone at his own accord. Artie essentially agreeing with his own punishment was not what he had in mind, hence the reason why he stretched the fucking bro fight out like an hour longer than it should have been. He was obviously hoping Artie would come to his senses and fully grasp the severity of what Daddy was taking away from him. Instead, Howard just flailed over his steadfast, insubordinate underling and wondered why he couldn't get him to kiss the ring like a good stuttering John or Steve Grillo would have. Great point.
Such an astute point.
Yeah.
And that's why it was such a magnificent segment in the show, and it was such a great show that we did, and why it lasted for so long, and it had to be so many parts because there was just so many facets we had to cover. We just had to. There were so many great facets. So I did this one's for the episode Lucky Charms, the Lucky Charms episode.
Yeah.
What's that? I forgot the name.
Count Your Lucky Charms.
Yes. And Buffalo, New York, born and raised, 1979. Great name. Could you imagine if Howard Stern would have become governor of New York State? Could you imagine his weird mandates he would impose? Everyone in New York, he would require every New York State male to show their entire asshole selfie on Tuesdays. Nobody allowed to eat dinner past 4 p.m. There would have been so many homosexual mandates he'd try to impose.
Maybe not in 1994, but yeah, you'd see a lot of that shit. Yeah.
His COVID rules would just be some homoerotic awfulness. Why do we have to put bags over our heads but have our pants down?
Every news conference would be like him with a bunch of like microphones in front of his face, like covering his face.
Every female has to wear a burqa.
Yeah. The bro fight, the same one Sarah Washington wrote down. So many great lines from this bro fight. Howard, Julia Roberts could write me a letter, and I ain't giving it to Artie. Artie, I don't want Julia Roberts. She's lost her looks.
Actually, I gotta give it to Julia Roberts. She's pretty cute. Still.
Oh, I can't stand her. I never liked her. Those fucking teeth. My God, just imagine getting a blowjob from her. You'd lose. She was never my type. She was never. Every time I saw her, I saw her brother Eric Roberts, and that was a huge turn off.
I don't know. I always thought she was kind of cute.
She was the it girl, though. A lot of people would disagree with me, but then there's people that think Nicole Kidman is stunning, and I'm not into blondes, so she was a little too skinny for me. I didn't think of anything of her. I was a Julianne Moore fan, actually. I loved her. Still do. Love gingers. Have you got one more?
Yeah, I got hold on. So I hate how if I look at the comment, I can't see what the podcast is called, the Arsenio one. Can you give me the title of that one?
Oh God, it was just I think it was just I can't remember. I think it was just Rescinding Volume V featuring Arsenio. I can't remember exactly. Yeah, it was just one of the rescindings.
Okay. This is from Super Straight.
Super Straight's a good poster. She's kind of like I can't I'll think of another analogy later. Yeah.
I'm about to make a huge statement. I've never hated this man more than I did after seeing the way he acted on Arsenio. Resting B-face. Won't smile or laugh at anything Arsenio is doing to ease the tension. That guy cut off shirt, oh my God. He had a lot of work on his face because he is unbearably grotesque here. What sense does it make to be mad at Arsenio? He was offered a show. He had no idea Howard did a shit pilot. So why hate on this guy so much? This makes my blood boil.
I think that even in 1987, how Arsenio would have known from working with Fox that Howard had a go at it. Like, there's no way he wouldn't have known. That wasn't even much of a secret. But yeah, otherwise, yeah, spot on. We got some comments from the Richie Wilson landing the plane interview, which was great, and it's one of the highest rated episodes we have, and I think rightfully so because he just laid it right out there. Kurt Cobain. Thanks, Kurt, from the dead. This is possibly the greatest podcast episode I've ever listened to. Thank you both so much. I now love Richie even more than I did before. Anonami. Biggest takeaway is that Howard stopped participating in the creative meetings a long time ago. No wonder the show started to sound like he was completely phoning it in 5 years ago. 5. Tried 15. I knew he was just coming in and picking from a selection of shitty pre-recorded bits and back office calls. He has become Oprah. That's where I have to disagree. Oprah is massively more successful than Wiggy. And Oprah, she's still proactive as far as I know. Okay, Mads. I don't usually support negativity or the act of attacking a person or trying to gossip. This is never that. I feel that it's an investigation into long-term crime, the crime of fraud, and it's decades long. The two of you are brilliant detectives, theorists, and presenters. Well, thank you, but it's not just two of us anymore. It's a big crew, and we're all fucking good pieces of the same toolbox.
That's the way we like it, because we're not, jealous cunts ruining the message or the show.
1, 4, 3.
So this one is for the Bob Levy episode.
The interview, yeah.
The Bob Levy interview. And by the way, on the Richie Wilson interview, I think it's also the highest rated one too, because Fillmore and I really, when we found out when we were getting this, we worked so hard at crafting questions. Like, we went back into the Marks Friggin archives, and absolutely everything we wanted to kind of just every little piddly situation that could have garnered some sort of anything to twitch his brain. We just threw it out there that we thought could lead to something. And shockingly, a lot of stuff did. And I'm surprised it did.
Yeah, it was a matter of, like, you weren't expecting some stuff to come out of him, and it did, and it was all organic. But we didn't get to all the questions we wanted, actually. So we're gonna have Richie in for another.
We have so much more.
Yeah, and we're definitely gonna get that done. We're a little behind schedule with that, but that was for a lot of reasons. And but either way, he said he's good when we're good. And now that we've got summer, a lot more time to get it done.
If I could, have a life. If I could have a life like some people where I didn't have a full-time job and a child and was a drunk and had no schedule, then I'd be fine. Yeah. But I don't have that. Okay. Easy Writer said for the Bob Levy thing, Bob sounded a bit nervous, possibly saying something negative about Howard. He might have the fantasy that he'll return to satellite in some capacity. And it's amazing how, as an alcoholic, he figured out how to keep drinking successfully. All that Xanax would make the average person sleep for 2 days. Easy Writer.
Yeah.
You're
maybe
right.
Forever.
I'd be in a coma.
Yeah. Well, Bob was really good. We had connection problems with him, a bit of echo and a bit of delay, but it wasn't completely unsalvageable. So, but that one was funny because we at least got him to listen to some old bits, and he was not. I wish we could have shown the video because he was fucking tickled. He did not get offended in the slightest. And being a comic, you wouldn't expect him to, but and he had a blast listening to some of those old stories.
I have to say, one of my favorite moments doing this podcast out of the entirety of this is Bob Levy playing back those old clips that he hasn't heard in a while, watching him puff on a cigarette and die laughing till he had tears coming out of his eyes, and he was wiping away the tears.
We all
we're
were.
commenting on this. We were crying laughing doing that entire interview. It was amazing. It was surreal to me that we were doing this. Do you know what I mean? As a fan, I was like, I can't believe I'm doing this.
Yeah.
It was so awesome.
From the Richie Wilson interview, this person, Lee T1601. Good interview, guys, but to be truly great, you've got to learn when to interrupt the guest. Your questions should be at least 60 seconds long, and that's at bare minimum. We want to hear you, not the guest. Also, were there a lot of unexplored topics you didn't go into, such as if he's in therapy, whether he hates anybody, whether he hates or is jealous of any of his family members, etc.
So Ronnie Percy said for the Bro Fight finale, once again, a phenomenal job by you and Sam, and especially Bob D. This just once again confirms that this crap show that has been put on and extended has not been on the same level since the days of people like Artie. It is amazing that the only people that have ever truly fought back were Artie, Eric the Midget, and Riley Martin. Even with Whack Packers, he could not keep up and needed help from Robin and staff. Great series, and please do not stop. Oh, don't worry. We have a lot of fight left in us. Can't you tell?
Yeah. Thanks, Ronnie. Ronnie's a good guy. He doesn't post as often as he used to, but he's a busy guy, and we love him. But either way, don't be a stranger, Ronnie. Come back on every once in a while and enjoy the mockery thread. 2 months when he comes back, and he's got about 6 hours of Jennifer Vitz fake bullshit calls, so he can rag on her for having the summer off. Yep, go ahead.
I have one from Amanda Brown. Again, I know we're repeating, but she is a great commenter. So
she really is.
So this is from a 15 Foundation Saga one, which, by the way, I can't wait until our next 15 one gets posted.
Can you believe that at one point you were like, we got to stop this?
It was bad in the beginning. It was really hard. Plus, in the beginning, you have to remember, we had to do such extensive research in the beginning to lay the blocks down for the exposition of it. So it wasn't as fun.
Yeah, it was. It's like
now it's
drawn
fun.
out. Yeah. There's a couple people, but there's particularly one person in the live chat who commented that they didn't want to hear they didn't want any more because they know the ending. Well, you know the ending to almost everything we're fucking covering because it's all old clips for the most part, or anything we've done has been recorded. It's an old show from a week ago, from a month ago, from 3 years ago, from 10 years ago. So that's a nonsense argument. If you want us to get to the end, then you're missing all the good shit in the middle because she has a meltdown. She walks off the show. Then in the summertime, eventually this whole Brendan thing takes place. And we've got so much shit we haven't gone into. There's so many angles of it.
The whole point of doing this is it gives a new set of eyes on this. When you put two people as introspective as Fillmore and I are on this, it's like taking two new set of fucking eyes on this, and you want to know what we have to say about this or think about this, and shining a light in those places that you might have missed when this was going on, which there was a lot. There was a lot that I was like, oh, I forgot about that.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Even we are going to be enlightened as we go through it, because I haven't listened to most of the clips since I made them into a saga on their own and collected them. And even then, I know I missed one or two because, there might have been a 2-minute thing in one show that they didn't post on Mark's Friggin', and I didn't, like another plug or something. So even as complete as I tried to make it, I still was like 98% complete.
I just know in the beginning of this, and then after like 2 episodes, man, that prep work for the 15 Foundation was rough. Like,
yeah,
I had 20, 30 pages of printed things, so many articles, because I wanted to reference and make sure I got every press release for stuff that I pointed out. I mean, the research that we do to this to make sure that we get the correct timeline, that we have everything down, is just, it's a little annoying in the beginning and boring for us, not for you guys.
Right.
But then once we get rolling with it, that's when I enjoy it. When the clips are playing and the videos are playing, that's when I have fun with it.
Right, and we had help from, Muldred Stern, the website, the Blogspot page, and then Cormano over at Reddit, who did a great job helping in the early, especially the early episodes, because that one was more taking a look at spreadsheets and the just the breakdown of how much they made versus how much they actually spent, and nothing was actually made for charity. And just the most
Right.
recent episode, which hasn't been
The
released,
minutia.
we went over some video walkthroughs that had us in fucking stitches.
Oh,
And
I sent those to Florentine. I go, you have to see what this 15 Foundation was doing. And he knew exactly who Brendan Murphy was. He said the boy toy grifter.
yeah,
And I go, I'm sending you these. And it's so bad. You guys are going to love this.
What have you got?
Amanda Brown said, I give major props to you guys for putting in all this work for this saga. Robin was at her most pompous during this time. Artie tried the McGriddle when it first came out, and I was enjoying his description of it. Then
Yeah.
Robin would put it down and like, ugh. I'm like, shut up. She might as well have enjoyed Artie eating a few McGriddles, breakfast burritos, and crumb cakes by the looks of things now.
Yeah, big time.
I was waiting for you guys to talk about the exact commentary you play at the beginning of the show. That's what I wanted to know, your thoughts on the most. I felt like I was on the edge, but didn't get to climax. Come on, I didn't miss it, did I? This is the part I'm talking about. Robin, we were having a great time and it was a good evening. Then I got some information that really rocked me and it just fucked my weekend up. Howard. Howard. I guess, can I guess what it is? But I'm not gonna. I can probably figure it out. Somebody betray you? Feels like a betrayal. Yeah. Isn't that when Robin found out that her boy toy was messing around behind her back with Anne Marie?
Yeah.
I think that short discussion was the last that was heard about Brendan and the whole thing. Not sure. I always wanted more details about that. Well, don't worry, Amanda Brown, because you will be getting them. But that's at the very tail end of things. So you're going to have to be patient. But I promise you, you will come.
Yeah, and if you're at the end, if you're like Billy Crystal and When Harry Met Sally, and you want to read the end of the book first before you read the beginning, like I do, actually, I even before that movie came out, I totally did that. I want to see how it ended.
What? You did?
I've ruined every book I've ever read. I always look at the end first, and then I read it.
Oh, that is terrible.
Yeah. I don't do that with movies. I don't do it with movies, but books I always do. Here's another one from Robin 15 Foundation, part 5, actually, the most recent, by Heavy Up. I remember I was cooking eggs one morning listening to Howard 101, and all of a sudden I hear, I'm Robin Quivers, and this is the chatter. Zap, zap, laser, boom, air horn, and shuddered, thinking to myself how terribly overproduced it was. It seemed like a favor was owed, and Howard simply shrugged his shoulders and let Robin do a shitty show he knew no one would listen to, as opposed to paying her or something.
Oh my God.
Okay, listen. The chatter may be on YouTube. It may not be. I have 4 episodes, and I gave who was it asked for it? I said, you really want this?
Oh, my
and
face hurts.
I think Molly Miscali, she wanted a copy. She wanted a. I think I emailed her, and she said it was among the worst thing I've ever heard, because all it was, yeah, you're right, overproduced, and because she's not good on the fly. You've seen her in even talk shows. She's just as bad as Howard, maybe a little better.
What do you mean?
Yeah. Okay. So have you got one more yourself, or do you want to continue from the I'm Not a Finook part 2?
Okay, I'll do that.
Okay. This one right here.
Okay. I'm Not a Finook part 2. Santa Monica Mountains Wildlife. Wow, that's quite the name.
Yep.
I remember one particular instance about a decade ago. Wig was talking about the prospect of eventually becoming a grandparent. He divulged about how Don Buchwald was a grandfather. And that he had a specific nickname. The kids called him instead of Grandpa. And he went on and on about it. That's what I'm going to do. Ain't no fucking kid calling me Grandpa. No way.
That's true. He's not calling himself Grandpa either.
Well, wait till you guys hear this. I'm not going to give it away. I'm not going to
Okay.
give it away.
Okay, Billy West versus John Kay. I don't remember which episode. I just took general ones from different because it's a three-parter by J.P. Pelsman, who's actually a really good writer. Great show, folks. It's sad to listen to all the cringe, but worse yet is Wiggy trying to convince the audience how great the segment is when it is clearly lame. That would happen a lot from 1995 on. Not that it hadn't happened already. For a guy who had been in radio almost 20 years by this point, his tone deafness is amazing. I agree. Or maybe he just thought he could hard sell the audience. The segment fell flat from the start, and nothing he or anyone did could save it. That's why I was kind of amazed the John Kay thing lasted the full hour. That's when you know he really wanted to fuck with Billy, and that's all because a normal time, if a guest is shit and nothing's happening, he just cuts it. He just cuts it short.
I mean, he actually really cut things short that could have went longer, but he has the attention span of a fly.
Yep. And he was fine with, it cringe if somebody else he felt was uncomfortable, and Billy was uncomfortable, but it wasn't.
He's an emotional sadist. Like,
Yeah.
If it has to do with torturing somebody that he wants to torture, then by all means, let's let this go on for an hour.
Mm-hmm. This is from the same episode by Miss Stern, who was on my other channel, but she actually, I believe it's a she because it says Miss Stern, and she didn't know we had a podcast until about episode 70
Fillmore,
or something like
that's
that.
very patriarchal and judgy of you. I am offended.
Yeah, she may be fluid.
She could have a dick, and you're being offensive.
Yeah, I'm Fred Flintstone.
Miss Stern.
Yeah.
Just came across your podcast a few days ago. Wait, is this for which one?
This is for the same one for John Kay versus Billy.
Oh, okay. Just came across your podcast a few days ago, and I love it. Well, that was really annoying of me and how I said it. I've been a fan since 1992. I bailed in 2019. Wow, you held on way longer than anyone.
Yeah, hella long.
But I listen to the old stuff, including Fillmore's page, every day. You guys are spot on with all your observations. I have felt the same way for years. It's quite telling how Howard has somehow managed to avoid the new cancel culture. Mm-hmm. I know. I feel the same way. The list is really endless. While Kimmel and Fallon were trashed in the media, Kimmel was ready to cry and took last summer off because his blackface was discovered. Howie has been left untouched. You literally can't find anyone but TMZ that covered Howard's blackface, but they still didn't cover all the times he said the N-word. I feel he is very connected with the media. I remember the early days when a disparaging article was written about him. He would trash the writer, their spouses, kids. Yep. Now I think Buchwald is so powerful, the media simply will not call Howard out for all his past behavior. And a lot of it is disgusting. Look up all the years he was obsessed with NAMBLA. He was the best advertisement for them, taking constantly about his...
Talking, I guess. But it was misspelled, but that's fine.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, no worries.
Talking constantly about his repulsive organization, even playing their answering machine that included their number. Mm-hmm. Howard has a disgusting past that he's been allowed to get away with. 3 to 4 days a week of intense psychotherapy has destroyed Howard. He's an awful person, always has been. He's also a liar and a thief. Like when he would talk about his poor upbringing, his father owned part of a company. They paid for all of his education. Voice lessons, gave him a car. He even received an allowance so he didn't have to work while going to college. Howard had a very modest childhood. More like he's a shell of his former self. We are all witnessing a complete downfall. I agree with you 1,000%
Yeah, and the whole idea is, I guess that's one of the most critical sort of complaints about him in general. Like he was completely fucking entitled, and for him to go on about how he didn't make much money, especially the whole $96 a week bullshit that he's been saying for the past, I don't know, his entire career, when Ben did and so much for him and was the sole breadwinner of the family. Keep that in mind. And that was
I know, and it wasn't a it was a common during that time period for a woman not to work and fine, right. But still they didn't work, and he still afforded all of the luxuries of a vacation, a summer camp, a college education, and all the other amenities that a lot of families didn't have with that same sort of situation. So shut the fuck up.
And one has to wonder why Ellen, his sister, doesn't have all this fucking hatred towards her parents that, we hear constantly.
I'm sorry, who?
Exactly. What sister? So coming up, guys, that's I don't know that I've got we don't know that we have too many more that don't illustrate the same point some of these fine people have already made. But coming up soon, we're going to be recording next week. It's the first of the Colford book, chapter 1 and maybe chapter 2. It depends how much we get recorded. But Benjamin's going to be on for that one. We are happy to bring him back for that specifically, but we got a lot of projects due. So someone recently asked if Howard doesn't come back, will we be gone? Like, no, we've got a year, more than a year of projects, and just not enough time to get through all of them the way we like.
That's the one book I can have in the house, the Howard Stern book, that I don't have to take the dust jacket off.
We've tried to get in touch with Colford, actually. Benjamin and I have both separately. He doesn't have a PM thing set up in Twitter so that you can message him personally. And his emails may be old or out of date, or he just doesn't, they go into spam. I have no idea. But he doesn't seem to want to talk about the Howard book, which I find odd because it's something, it's a back issue. Maybe he doesn't get any more money out of it. I have no idea, but he would be fascinating to interview. I'd love to get him if we could.
Well, just like that last commenter wrote about what's the deal with why people don't bring up the fact he just flagrantly lied on The View about saying, I never said the N-word, and how does he get away with it? And how does he continuously keep getting away with it? We think something has to do too with the Pink Mafia.
Yeah.
There's some sort of protection with Howard within that. But just like we saw with Ellen, if you fall out of the good graces at some point, just like Alec, at some point you will meet your downfall. And I am not so sure that it's not going to happen. And I think podcasts like ours people do listen.
Yes,
I am aware of people who listen.
Yeah, in the industry.
People in the industry know. I know people who are comedians who have podcasts that are very popular. I'm not going to mention names.
Not just comedians too, other hosts of other shows.
Who listen, and they are all too pushing for this to come to light. And our podcast is a great shiner on this, all these topics. So it's all right here. You just have to have one brave person to say enough.
Right. Like we know of serious employees that listen to the show. Let me put it that way, guys. Serious people who have the show on Sirius. Let me get it that way. And obviously we understand why people can't admit to it, or they can't endorse us, and they can't be part of the show. That's up to them. But I will throw this out. If you guys want to indirectly, like anonymously, answer questions posed to you, you can do that too. We're not going to out our sources, and we encourage you to come forward. Absolutely.
Oh, I also had to tell you. So the blind item the blind item that came out in Crazy Days and Nights about Sandra Bernhard, who was going to talk about how Beth was basically a hooker.
A hooker, yeah.
And a paid-for spouse.
Yeah.
And Andy Cohen, which, remember I said I thought it was Andy Cohen and you thought it was Jay Leno.
No, I thought it was Letterman, but then I said Andy Cohen makes more sense if they have a relationship because he's more current and Letterman's retired. So
and I knew Sandra Bernhard had a show, Sandyland, on Sirius,
and I didn't know she had a show.
So when The Blind was revealed, I messaged Heather McDonald, who has a podcast, and she messaged me back, and she said, I'm going to try to get a copy of this book that Sandra was writing. I want these chapters. I want this book, because she has a podcast called Juicy Scoops.
I'd love to fucking read it.
And she's trying to get this chapter.
she'll never get this chat. There's
She's
no way.
trying, but so she's in the know of what we know and listens and knows. So that's another person who knows. By the way, she's in the know.
Well, I hope you're enjoying. I hope you're enjoying the plug. Not plug. I mean, Christ's sake, I don't.
She's amazing, and her podcast is awesome.
Yeah, no, I believe you. I just I'm so, I hate to say it, but I'm so kind of invested in putting stuff together for our podcast that I don't even really get to listen to ones I enjoy anymore. Like I love Gilbert's podcast and occasionally listen to Rogan, but I've not been able to listen to an episode for all year actually. I just been so kind of nuts. But I will tell people, this is a little promo coming up soon on Patreon. Of course, the opening episode with me and Deborah Marshall. It's as yet untitled, but it's almost 2 hours and it's a really fucking great slog. That's for Patreon subscribers. And pretty soon, coming up soon, Carrie and I are going to do a deep dive into Hank the Angry Dwarf. I said no Whackpacker stuff, but he wants to do an enabling Hank kind of, not rescinding, but an enabling Hank show. And anybody who wants in on that can absolutely be part of it. But I thought that would be a great idea, and he's perfectly willing to go through that with us. And that's going to be another Patreon thing.
Wow, that's actually a really good idea. I like that.
Yeah.
I also emailed and messaged. There's this really great Instagram account, has a ton of followers. She releases all gossip all day long. It's called Bravo and Cocktails, at Bravo and Cocktails. And all she does is release gossip all day long about celebrities and dirt people send her and give her. So I gave her all the dirt I have about Howard and Ralph and everything. And she messaged me back and was like, mind blown, totally keeping this, waiting to release this, will release this. Okay. So wait for Bravo and Cocktails to
And the topic of the first, but this is ironic because the topic of the first Patreon episode I did with Deborah is basically we made a 16-minute clip, 2 hours almost, and it was Howard's first bulletin board and how he had to shut it down because people were being a little too honest, calling Beth a horse and calling him a fag and things like this. So he had to shut down his own bulletin board because he didn't want to pay anybody to moderate it.
Yeah, they have to. People who are frauds have to shut down comments. They have to shut down everything.
Yeah, and that particular avenue, there's so many aspects of it, and that's what's going to happen going forward, guys. And trust me, we have so many projects that we're doing for the Sunday broadcasts. But we're saying if you want extra content, get on Patreon ASAP, and we're guaranteeing weekly extra content, if not more, depending on the timeline. But we'll keep you fully. That's where we also keep people fully updated on what's going on, as well as our Facebook page. So please join us at Facebook. If your account is less than 2 years old, you're not going to get accepted. We'll tell you that flat out. And but either way, just if you're a long-termer on Facebook, please join us, and you'll have a great time. And check out the rules before you join, and that's how you get in.
Yep, that's it.
So, anything else?
No, I feel so much better. Our mailbox is fully cleaned out. Don't you feel better?
I feel like I'm
getting things done. I feel like I'm getting things done.
Now we have 0 inbox, guys.
We have 0 emails. Marcy would be so proud. Look at. Are you proud of me, Daddy? I deserve a star.
Take care, guys. We love you.